All right, welcome back. We're going to be talking about, we talked about the shells, and now we have to finish up on the shells. What happens when the tank runs out or has 100 damage? What is supposed to happen in the game? What we're going to do is a few things. We're going to keep score. Remember that there's two scores here. You have one score for tank 1, one for tank 2. So every time tank 1 gets exploded, then tank 2's score goes up by 1 and vice versa. That's kind of the idea, but we need to also show it on the screen. So which means we have to create a font for doing that. So we're going to say create font. We're going to make it kind of big, so the size will be 48. We do want to make it bold, and we just want to do digits because this is going to be our score. So those are the ASCII values for digits. So now we have our font. Now we go to the controller object. Now I don't have one yet, I don't think. No, I don't. So let me add that. And in the game start event for the controller, here's game start, we want to set the two score values to 0. Now, GameMaker comes prepackaged with a score already there, but since we have two scores we have to keep track of, we have to create our own score variables. This is the first time we use global variables. Typically when you write software you don't want to use global variables, but in this case this is a good idea. So we say global, that means you can get to it from anywhere. And we're going to say score 1, so that's the tank 1 score. And we're going to initialize it to 0. And we're going to do the same thing for tank 2. So we say score 2. So both of them start out at 0 to begin with. Next up, we want to add to the draw event that we want to use the font we just created. So we're going to add an event. Here it says draw. And in the draw event, the first thing we want to do is set the font to what we just created. Remember, this font only has digits in it. We also want to set the color for the one of the players. So that's here. And we're going to set that to red. Okay. You want to grab a color that's going to stand out. Next up, we want to draw the variable in the control tab. Yeah, it doesn't seem to be here. Maybe it's in the control tab. Yeah, here it is. Draw variable. And the variable we're going to draw is global dot score 1, and we're going to set x to 300, and we're going to set y to 10. Okay, so that's good. Now we want another set font. So here's that. And this time, I guess on the first one we were supposed to align right. So let's do that. Here's the first one. The alignment we want to be to the right. And on this one we want it to be left, which is the default. We want to use a different color when we draw this font or draw this score. So I'm going to switch our colors here. And this one we'll choose blue. So dark blue. Maybe this one. Okay, so we've set our color. Now we're ready to draw that variable again. This time, this one here, global dot score 2. And our coordinates are going to be 340 for x and 10 for y. So let's take a look to see if we see our score now. We do have to remember to put our controller in the room. A lot of times people create their controller and they don't put it in the room, which isn't good. You can put it anywhere where there's not already something else. So I'll put it there. The player's not going to see that because it doesn't have a sprite. But it does have a draw event. So that's kind of weird to have something in the game that has no sprite but has a draw event. But we're using the draw event for the controller to draw our score. Let's see what that looks like. So there's our two scores. I fire in the tank. My hope is when I shoot the last time here. Notice the tank isn't blowing up and I'm not increasing the score yet. Okay, so we have to put that mechanism in next. What we want to happen when the tank runs out of health, I guess, we want the tank to blow up. So we're going to need an explosion object. We're going to use the biggest explosion this time. So we'll create our explosion sprite. So sprite explosion large, and we'll load that sprite. Okay. You want to center this so it occurs in the middle of the tank. I'm kind of skipping sounds, but if you want to add sounds to the game, you can do that at that point. Okay, so we have the sprite now. We can create the object. I guess that's here. We're going to set the depth to -10 because we want this to be over the tank image if it's still there. So we'll set the depth. So, and then, let's see. We would say create event other dot animation end. So at the end of the animation, we just want to restart the room. And that's this one, restart room. We don't clear the scores because the score's going to stay there between rounds. Okay, we need a way to indicate that so much damage has been done to the tank that the other player wins. So we're going to go back to the parent tank. That's here. And we have a create event. We have damage set to 0. We have a step event. Here's our step event. Right now it only has that. But we need to add a lot more to this. So in our step event, we want to test a variable. So let's do that. Test variable. The variable we're testing is damage. And what we're saying is if damage is larger than, I'm going to say 99, because at 100 I actually want it to trigger the event. And here, I guess we want to say smaller than 100. We use negative logic here. So if the damage is smaller than 100, there's really not anything more for us to do, so we're just going to exit the event. Next thing we want to do is we want to figure out what tank blew up. Right now we're in tank parent, and we kind of need to, it's called a downcast. We've got to figure out which tank it is. So the way you do that is you say test variable. The variable we're looking for is kind of a new variable called object index. So object index, and this is a predefined variable, comes with GameMaker. And you want to test that against the index for object tank 1. So we'll say that here. Tank 1. Make sure you spell it the same way as you have over in your form control. So if that's equal to 1, then you know you're in tank 1. If that's the case, then you want to add 1 to global.score global.score 2, which is the second player or second tank's score. We want to add 1 to it, and we want to make it relative. Now, if it's not tank 1, we already know that it has to be tank 2. So we don't have to ask the question, hey, is this tank 2? Because we already know that. If it's not tank 1, it's got to be tank 2. So here, we're going to put an else. We know it's tank 2, we know it's tank 2, so we need to increase the score for tank 1, because tank 2 is getting blown up right now. Okay. Change the score to score 1 with the same settings. Next, we want to create an instance of the large explosion. So we do that next. Actually, the large explosion here. We'll make it relative to the current position of the tank. And then we'll destroy the instance of the tank, because it just got blown up. Okay? So that's what the tank parent's step event looks like now. So let's see if we can get that behavior to actually happen in the game. So I'm firing my damage, or my health bar is going down. Boom. Okay. That looked good. And notice too that my score over here has gone up by 1. Blasting away. One more. Boom. Now I have 2 points. My tanks don't turn around right now, or I show you the other one. But so that's how you keep track of damage and how do you show the score. Okay, so we've done the health bars. I think that's it on the shells. So I'm going to stop here, and then we'll start. The next thing we'll talk about is secondary weapons.